Thank you for joining me on 13 Plus. I'm Cali Lichter, and this is On the Docket, a weekly recap of crime and court in and around the state of Michigan. This week, we speak to the family who says they are finally getting justice for their loved one who was murdered 3 decades ago. And dramatic Ring camera footage shows the moment a car runs into a house in Kent County. All that and more is On the Docket. We're learning details about an officer-involved shooting on September 16th that left 1 man dead in Wyoming. Our Aaron Sullivan was at the scene with what we know.
But we do want to point you in this direction over here. We do have reason to believe this house right here is where that shooting happened. There was a heavy police presence here, and this has not been confirmed by police just yet. But in our video, you can see the investigation focused heavily on this area. However, police did confirm a 31-year-old man did die in this shooting. Police say they responded to a domestic disturbance around 1 in the morning at the 200 block of Lemira Street here in Wyoming. On the way to the scene, police learned that the suspect possibly did fire shots inside of the home here. When they did arrive, they found a man inside with a handgun. Police say officers then shot the suspect who died at the scene. They also said that man was in violation of a protective order, and they have not released any additional details about the suspect. Now, both officers involved have been placed on administrative leave, and of course, we are in constant communication with the police department, asking more questions about this investigation. And as we learn more details, you can find those at 13onyourside.com.
On the Docket last episode, we told you how a man is finally charged in a 1991 cold case murder. The Muskegon County prosecutor recently charged Derek Anderson with open murder and perjury for the death of Telfreda Covington. Now that Anderson is charged, our Lauren Baker was able to speak with Telfreda's family on how they feel about this break in the case.
Sitting in their home, together on their couch, the family of Telfreda Covington says their mission will always be the same.
Despite what we face, if we stand firm on what we believe to be true, we know that justice is going to be served.
Finding the person they say killed her 34 years ago. But now, more than a year after speaking with me on that same couch for the first time,
I feel like, it's time to, what they say, pay the piper, You did what you did.
They say their mission has taken a new path.
I could see her saying thank you with a big smile on her face, just saying thank you.
The Muskegon County Prosecutor's Office has charged Derek Anderson for Covington's murder. It's news her daughter Keisha Covington says she wasn't expecting.
I didn't believe that they had found the person. I didn't. Because it's been, again, 34 years. So I just was numb, just couldn't believe it. Just couldn't believe that our prayers are finally being answered.
Her son, Courtney Covington, says he wonders why officials couldn't connect that crime to his mother's murder.
Crime got locked up for was 2008. I still don't understand how we couldn't put the connection, a little sooner between my mom and this.
Muskegon County Prosecutor DJ Hilson credited Covington's mother for her nonstop effort of finding her daughter's killer, and her family agrees.
My mother is a resilient woman, and she is the one that's not going to stop. She's not going to quit no matter what. Doors were slammed, phone calls were never had. But after 34 years, her prayers, our prayers, standing behind her, the billboards now speaking loud.
But for Covington's brother, justice doesn't stop at the charges. He wants Anderson to be held accountable.
I feel that we would get justice if he's not allowed to plead out, because I want to confront him. We want to be able to confront him and ask him why. I want to know the motive behind it, because my sister didn't do nothing to nobody. Excuse me.
Until that day in court comes, the family says not only do they thank their community, they encourage others going through the same thing to never give up.
I want to encourage others that are seeking justice for their loved ones to never give up, because it can happen for you too. It's going to happen for you too.
Anderson will be in court for his arraignment in October, and we'll be there when that happens. After being handed a life sentence 6 decades ago, a man walked out of Muskegon prison after that sentence was commuted. I went to Detroit where friends and family welcomed him home. Tears and applause as William Fitlow Hunt walked into the room greeted by friends and family after 60 years in prison.
I'm on top of the world, man. I feel like a breath of fresh air.
What was called a death wish, Hunt was spending life in prison for his participation in a 1965 fatal armed robbery, according to the Michael Thompson Clemency Project. They say Hunt has always maintained his innocence. After being in prison since before the moon landing, Hunt's sentence was commuted by Governor Gretchen Whitmer in July. Hunt was released from the Ernest C. Brooks Correctional Facility in Muskegon Tuesday morning.
It's one thing that my daddy taught all his kids: honor your word.
That's right.
See what I'm saying? And this is what I read now today. People that don't honor their word, I have nothing to do with them.
Nothing. That's right.
Nothing. Because if your word ain't nothing, you ain't nothing. Really ain't nothing.
This was something Michael Thompson has been fighting for after befriending Hunt in prison.
We move on to another chapter. We didn't help each other many times. Now we got to help these young people.
Hunt remembered a conversation that he had while incarcerated about what he wants to do for the community when he got out.
Out of Grand Rapids, Class Sims. And he asked me what was I going to do when I get out. And I told him, I said, I'm going to talk to all these little young guys, keep them out of gangs.
Hunt will work with violence intervention group Force Detroit to keep other young men out of prison. Next on the docket, we go up to Lewis Adventure Farm for the start of their fall festivities and to talk about the legacy of their late co-owner. And dramatic Ring video footage shows the moments a car slams into a house in Wyoming. It may not feel like it, but it's officially fall here in West Michigan. And places like Lewis Adventure Farm and Zoo are bringing out all of their fall favorites. Our Lauren Baker got a chance to see all of the things they have to offer, plus how they're honoring a special person this year.
At Lewis Adventure Farm and Zoo, it's pretty hard to find a spot where there isn't something for you to do.
Carousel, you pick apples, go that way, our barrel train, our goat barns.
Marketing manager Rob Recknagel says,
if you stood here and you watch families come in, big smiles on their face, and then they just, boom.
All that action is geared towards families.
You can see, I mean, these families are here and they're excited.
And that excitement ramps up for one season.
It is fall right now, so just talk about the fall season and getting people out here, especially during this time.
Fall season is our biggest time on the farm. We have different menu items, different performers, entertainers, things like pig races and just adventurous things that make people excited to come here.
And this fall,
when we come to work every day, we think about her every day.
The staff at the farm are using their love for the season to honor a special person.
We're going to do this for her and keep carrying things on and make it amazing for her because she loved this place.
2 months ago, co-owner Cindy Lewis died after she was accidentally hit by an employee. Instead of sitting in that sadness, her family and farm staff have decided to celebrate her legacy.
Show them how it's done.
By sharing all the things she loved about the farm with others.
Aww.
She absolutely loved this farm. And she absolutely loved the animals. She loved to see people interact with the animals. When I see that little guy look at a goat or see a llama for the first time and have a big smile, she lives in that.
So to make sure she lives on, Recknagel says they'll keep on being a farm, offering a petting zoo and fulfilling the purpose Cindy and her family have created.
And really, if you could say the one mission of this farm, it is for families to come and have fun and make memories.
The farm also has a new baby sloth, and they are naming the sloth Cindy Lewis in honor of Cindy. For a list of all of their new attractions and food, head to our website, 13onyourside.com. A Wyoming woman says she's thankful no one was hurt after a car crashed into her home. It happened at the intersection of Dalton and Elbin Street Southwest. Our Kiara Patterson tracked down the homeowner and tells us why she's so concerned.
There's some marks here, some indents.
A quiet Monday afternoon at the intersection of Elbin and Dalton Street in Wyoming turned chaotic when a driver lost control, crashing through Karen Brooks's yard and into her front steps. Brooks was out running errands when neighbors called, urging her to come home.
Well, first I looked on my cameras and I'm like, oh my gosh, there's a car in our yard that hit our porch. See that there's 2 police cars here, an ambulance, a fire truck, and we just didn't know what was going on.
Brooks has lived in her home for 30 years and says this isn't the first time her home has taken a hit.
The first thing was, oh no, not again, because in the winter somebody came down Elbon here, and nobody seems to pay attention to that yield sign. And so somebody had come through and went through up into our yard and hit the corner of that fence and broke through it, and then they left.
This time, the crash left lasting damage, flower pots destroyed, her favorite tree scarred, and even possible foundation issues.
This house is the only thing I own in this whole world. So, just thinking in my head of all the things that are going to have to be fixed and checked, and it's sickening even still.
She said the driver told police his foot got stuck on the gas pedal. He was ticketed and no one was hurt. Brooks believes he was going 35 to 40 miles an hour in a 25. She hopes this serves as a reminder for drivers to slow down.
Just to be more mindful when you're in your vehicle. I mean, this could have been so much worse. I am out in my yard in the summer from sun up to sundown, and I'm watering plants, I'm pulling weeds, and I could have been out here.
Brooks says insurance adjusters and foundation experts are assessing the damage. Political threats and violence are continuing to rise in the United States, and some say people need to lower the temperature. Now the state attorney general wants state lawmakers to act. Our political reporter Josh Albertus spoke with Dana Nessel and heard what she says need to be done.
These threats are not nothing. They undermine our democracy.
A tragic trend in violence and threats to American political figures. From conservative activist Charlie Kirk being shot and killed on the campus of a Utah university to multiple Michigan Democratic officials saying their homes had been targeted last week by bomb threats.
I'm having some of the most difficult conversations I've ever had with my children right now. But we can get through it together.
Now, Michigan's Attorney General speaking out on a high level of not just overall potential political violence.
We're seeing this significant escalation in the number of swatting incidences.
Swatting, when someone makes a false call meant to divert a large law enforcement presence to someone's home. In the best case, it costs money and law enforcement resources.
But worst case scenario, people are getting injured and even killed as a result. You know, when you have a SWAT force show up at somebody's house, who of course is not expecting that to happen and they have no idea what's going on, you never know what the reaction is going to be.
But even with the threat, penalties, she signaled, are not keeping up.
My concern is that the penalties are so minimal in Michigan that it's not a real deterrence for it. And in some of these cases, it's just a misdemeanor and a fine.
As threats and violence seem on the rise, and as legal language from higher powers, she said, changes over time.
We've had United States Supreme Court decisions that have changed the language of what is considered to be a true threat, and it does not match our state laws.
Nessel calling on state lawmakers to act and ensure justice can be served.
We need to make sure that we have the best laws possible to address this kind of political violence, because the number of threats are escalating to an incredibly high number.
For more on politics statewide and nationwide, you can watch the latest episode of The Rundown Last Week in Michigan Politics, also streaming now on our 13 Plus app. Next on the docket, we speak to MSP about a new statewide campaign aimed at exposing the dangers of how online predators are preying on children. And we dig into the docs about a woman accused of shooting and killing her husband in Oceana County, why police say she initially lied about what happened. A statewide campaign started by Michigan State Police is warning parents about the dangers their children can face on the internet. You may not think it will happen to your child, but experts say anyone is a potential target. Michigan State Police are warning parents online predators are opening the door to their children's bedrooms to try and exploit them.
Educate parents and to advocate that parents work with their children, establish guidelines, safe practices, but also what is that child going to do? What should they do when they come across something that is inappropriate or that makes them feel uncomfortable? How do they handle that?
Which is the message they want to spread with their new statewide Opening the Door campaign. Detective Sergeant Matt McLallen with MSP's Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force says the campaign is to draw attention to predatory behaviors like grooming and sextortion.
And one of the biggest things that we're seeing right now is a rise in generative AI. Generative artificial intelligence, where there's now programs out there that can create additional images, including nude images of people, including our children.
And also encouraging parents to have an open and honest line of communication with their children in case it happens to them.
I think it's very important that a parent establishes trust with their child, so if something like that does happen, then the child feels comfortable with coming to their parents and telling them about the issue instead of keeping it to themselves and potentially having really bad things happen.
If you believe a child is being exploited, you should contact the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Parents can find resources like how to use parental controls on our website, 13onyourside.com. Newly obtained court documents say an Oceana County woman charged with killing her husband was not honest with detectives at first. I dove into the docs to see why law enforcement charged the wife with murder. Shale Campos said she was at her breaking point, leading to her shooting and killing her husband in his sleep, according to court documents obtained by 13 on Your Side. Campos was charged in August with murder and felony firearm after initially calling authorities to tell them a, quote, Hispanic man had broken into their house and killed her husband, Jason Campos. After Oceana County and Michigan State Police canines could not pick up the scent of the person Campos said she saw break in and pull the trigger, and a polygraph test, court docs say Campos admitted to detectives she thought the safety was on the handgun, shooting her husband in the back, and that there was no other person involved. The docs go on to say the Camposes had been together for 3 decades, but over those 3 decades, Jason had changed. Campos said her husband was emotionally abusive to both her and their children, creating distress and anxiety. And her breaking point was the alleged abuse, along with her husband wanting to buy 2 new side-by-sides that day, which the court docs say Campos said they did not need. Detectives say she claimed, quote, there was no other way to do it, and there would have been no other way, referring to shooting Jason. Director of Crisis Intervention Services at YWCA West Central Michigan, Fallon Lee, says abuse doesn't have to be physical. It can be emotional, financial, and look different in every case. She also says abuse in a household can be felt by all.
It doesn't have to just be happening to the survivor. If the children are witnessing this, it's affecting them too, and they may not feel safe, and they may get secondary trauma or emotional abuse from the situation.
But organizations like YWCA can help break out of the cycle.
It's hard for a survivor to know what they can do, and sometimes they feel like their back is pushed into a corner, and sometimes they just don't know what to do. Like, we're here to help.
YWCA has a 24/7 crisis line available with resources for domestic violence. Campos is scheduled for a probable cause conference at the end of September. Halloween morning of 2024, Dowagiac Elementary art teacher Gloria White was murdered by her son Aiden, who was living with undiagnosed schizophrenia. 2 days later, White's daughter Allison contacted artist Tails Jekyll to create a memorial through painting. I spoke with Tails Jekyll, whose painting, She Named Him Little Fire, is featured at the Ford Museum's Art Prize exhibit this year, on how they showed grief through art. On Halloween morning in 2024, Dowagiac Elementary art teacher Gloria White was murdered by her son, Aiden, who was living with undiagnosed schizophrenia. 2 days later, artist Tails Jekyll was contacted by White's daughter, Allison, about a way they could honor their mother.
I hope that we can collaborate in the future to create a piece together to be able to honor my mother, but to also protest the systems that failed my brother.
Jekyll took on the project, which culminated in she named him Little Fire, on display at the Ford Museum for Art Prize.
First and foremost, this painting needed to exist. Gloria's family and Allison, they didn't get an open casket funeral. I hope that this painting can give Gloria's family one more opportunity to look at her in her beauty.
Jekyll says painting this piece was heavy. They and Allison communicated for months.
And there was one path where I could have just, not allowed myself to process anything, turn off my brain, and just be the uninvested journalist. Or I could do my job and actually learn about Gloria and learn how to fall in love with her.
And that was the path they ended up taking.
It made it a lot more difficult to go home and paint Gloria's portrait, because this is volunteered grief, It was a very difficult thing to work on.
Jekyll documented the painting's journey on their TikTok page, garnering thousands of views and likes. It's not the first time they've had attention online. They went viral on the platform 3 years ago when they decided to drop out of art school at Michigan State University. But this time it's different.
I am just beyond honored. Art is so special because it can say so much. And to finally be taking my art to say something that I think means something, I can't put words to it.
Thanks for joining me in this episode of On the Docket on 13+. We have new episodes releasing every week, taking you into the courtroom for the latest updates and deep dives on crime in and around West Michigan. In the meantime, we'll bring you the latest on crime and court, both on air and online at 13onyourside.com. And when breaking news affects you and your community, we stream live on 13+ with what you need to know right when you need to know. We'll see you next time with updates on what's on the docket.